the VA, the Department of Veterans Affairs, is conducting a big teletown hall for Montana veterans. That teletown hall is going to be led by Department of Veterans Affairs Undersecretary Paul Lawrence. Undersecretary Lawrence, Dr. Paul Lawrence, now with us here on Montana Talks. Dr. Lawrence, great to have you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Well, thanks for having me, Aaron, and thanks for caring about our veterans.
Well, it's a big deal. Obviously, I'm a little personally biased, being an Iraq and Afghanistan veteran myself. I know you're an Army veteran as well. In Montana, we've got some of the highest numbers of veterans per capita in the country. So before we take our first break here, just give us the big picture on how important this teletown hall is going to be and how big of an opportunity this is for our veterans tomorrow.
Really important, and it can be really big. We want all veterans with their questions to call us at 3 p.m. your time at the toll-free number 844-227-7557. They'll hear a little bit from me, and then I answer questions. And we need to hear their questions so we can figure out how to solve them. And quite frankly, we need to hear the questions so we can get smarter about how we serve our veterans. So especially during the unusual time we're in, we want to let them know we're here for them and figuring out what it is that's stopping them from getting the benefits they have earned and how we fix those things.
The Undersecretary for the Department of Veterans Affairs, Dr. Paul Lawrence, with us here on Montana Talks. Tomorrow, the VA is conducting a teletown hall for Montana veterans, and Dr. Paul Lawrence will be on that call. Dr. Lawrence, how important have these teletown halls been? I know you've been able to reach a lot of veterans that maybe you weren't able to reach before. Talk about some of the questions that have been coming up on these teletown halls.
Sure, you're right. Ironically, because it's phone, we're reaching many of the older veterans, and they self-identify, so that's just a statement of fact. But two questions are coming up regularly. One is, a lot of our older veterans were erroneously told they're not eligible for benefits. So that's just not true. All veterans are eligible for benefits, so we encourage them to come to us, call us, or call the Montana Department of Veterans Affairs to find out what they've earned. And the other question we're getting a lot about from the veterans, when I pass, does my wife have any benefits? And yes, there are spousal and survivor benefits, which we are explaining and tell people about. So a lot of good questions as people are planning for the future. And again, always happy to explain things to our veterans when they come to us.
Give me that phone number again, that tomorrow, 3 p.m. Montana time. Give us a phone number. Sure. I'll write it down this time, too.
Sure. 844-227-7557.
Great. Okay. All right. And I'll share that on our website later today as well. So when it comes to the Department of Veterans Affairs, everybody had to change things due to the COVID-19 shutdowns and the other impacts and everything like that. But it also kind of gave us an opportunity to say, well, wait, if we can streamline things now, why don't we streamline things moving forward? And the Trump administration has already delivered some very important reforms. What more has been identified because of the COVID-19 shutdowns that maybe could be streamlined moving forward?
Oh, absolutely. And here's something the Secretary does not plan to go back to. As part of this, we needed more doctors and medical professionals, nurses and the like. It used to take about 80 days to hire them into the federal government. We figured out how to do it in 3 to 4 days. We cut all the red tape you described earlier, and we're not going back to that. So we're going to continue this efficient way of hiring folks that will serve our veterans, and elsewhere in the administration, they're asking us about how we did it and how they can copy it.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I know we mentioned that with the VA Secretary himself a few weeks ago when he had joined us right at the start of the pandemic closures and shutdowns and everything else. What are some of the biggest issues facing the VA right now that might be different from, say, just even 5 or 10 years ago?
Sure. Well, one of the things we've really made an effort to, and as you know, the president's been great about putting veterans at the center of his administration and then getting us the resources and the tools. So in terms of what we do, processing claims have never been processed faster, and so we're really trying to get veterans their benefits. And in addition, I'm sure the Secretary pointed that out, the wait times and the trust scores in the VA are never been higher. The wait time's shorter, the trust score's never been higher. So compared to just the previous team where getting your claims took years. Folks were unfortunately dying getting appointments. we know things have changed significantly. And finally, the one thing the president talks about all the time is accountability, the right to exit people. The president says, you're fired, the right to exit people who really don't want to serve our veterans. So we have some great tools to make sure the VA is here for our veterans.
Talking with, every other Tuesday, we'll catch up with one of our local doctors back here in Montana. And, there's a lot of side effects from COVID-19, not from COVID-19 itself, but from the COVID-19 shutdowns, not just economic side effects that will have health effects as well, but just an increase in suicide, depression, an increase in other healthcare costs that have been kind of pushed to the sidelines during all these shutdowns. Same thing, I'm assuming, happening in the veterans community as well. So talk about how important it is really to get the word out right now and to communicate directly with these veterans right now, especially because of these COVID-19 shutdown side effects.
Sure. Well, one of the things we're worried about is exactly what you described, social isolation. We started a program the end of last year called Solid Start. We call folks who are new veterans in their first year 3 times to check in on them and to begin to establish the relationship with VA. And so that's something we started. We answer their questions. We don't talk to them. We follow it up with emails about the resources and things they have. We thought that would be a lot of questions about mental health. It's mostly questions about accessing care and benefits. And the other thing we talk about is, folks are really in crisis. They should call our hotline. The number is 1-800-273-8255. And there we can rally resources in the local community if needed to do an in-person intervention if we think somebody's really at the end and it could potentially harm themselves. So we want them to know, there's a range of resources to include this hotline, which, real people answer phone calls 24 hours a day to help our veterans who are in crisis. Yeah,
and we know that there's folks in crisis. I had interactions with 2 different families last week, one recent, one from a few years ago, and suicide is just so painful for these families. Dr. Paul Lawrence, Undersecretary for the Department of Veterans Affairs, great to have you on the show this morning. Thanks for hosting this Montana Teletown Hall tomorrow for our great veterans across the state.
Thanks, Aaron, and thanks for your service.